Dozens of sailors aboard the USS Roosevelt have tested for COVID-19, and now the aircraft carrier's captain is pleading with Navy officials for help. News 8's Brandon Lewis is live across from Naval Station North Island with the call for action. Brandon.
Yeah, Carlo, he sent a letter to Navy officials asking them to do more. Currently, some of the sailors are in a Guam gym in a group quarantine situation. He is asking for up to 90% of the sailors to get into isolation to try to figure out who has the coronavirus and get them treated.
We've identified all those folks that they've had contact with, and we're quarantining them as well.
That was the Navy 1 week ago as it downplayed the potential risk of coronavirus on board the USS Theodore Roosevelt. But in a letter obtained by CBS News, the commanding officer says that was impossible. Captain Brett Crozier wrote Navy officials saying, quote, "We are not at war. Sailors do not need to die," unquote. The San Diego-based nuclear carrier is homeported in Coronado. It left back in January with 4,000 sailors on board. Earlier this month, it completed a 5-day port visit in Vietnam. Video shows sailors participating in community projects like performing maintenance at the Agent Orange Center and visiting a charity center in Da Nang. The Navy said it debated whether to allow sailors to go ashore, but at the time there were only 16 confirmed coronavirus cases in Vietnam. The first sailor didn't test positive until 15 days later, so it's unclear how the virus got onto the ship. Meanwhile, the Roosevelt made its way to Guam, where those not showing symptoms were taken to gyms with cots. But now, at least 2 sailors there tested positive. Crozier wrote, quote, "Group quarantine sites are not a solution and are not in accordance with current guidance," unquote. The captain is asking the Navy to isolate 90% of the crew individually and keep just 10% on board for cleaning and essential functions. The admiral for the Pacific Fleet refused to commit to any numbers, but says they're working to balance the needs of the nuclear warship and its sailors. That includes working with Guam to secure hotel rooms to isolate some sailors and get the ship back to sea in a few weeks.
So the cleaning of the ship is challenging. You identified it. The guidance has been to clean to the standards and in the manner in which CDC describes. It certainly is more challenging, but that's the way forward.
While the Admiral wouldn't discuss specific numbers, we know there are at least 35 sailors who have tested positive for coronavirus based on the captain's letter, but the number is likely much higher. The Admiral did say that of those sailors who tested positive, none of them are in the hospital and none of them require any sort of intensive care like ventilators. Of course, going to stay on top of the story and bring you the latest developments as they continue to unfold, including what some families have to say. For now, though, we'll go ahead and send things back to you in the studio. Carlo and Barbara Lee.
All right, thanks, Brandon.